Good morning, guys. It's Dee Dee with Glue Patch Studios. We're going to do, again, something a little different today. I'm working on a project for a sweet little girl that's been in my family for a while now. My son has a foster child, and she's going to be leaving next week to go home. So I'm so happy for her, but I'm going to miss her so much. This is what I've been working on. I already had these squares done just as a little quilt as you go, and we'll probably do a video on that soon. But I had these squares and I thought that would be such a cute quilt for her. So I'm working on getting it put together, and I'm just cutting strips and then putting the batting in here and then top stitching over the back. I do the back first and then stitch. When you stitch this down on the front, it makes a decorative stitch on the back. I use clear poly monofil, I think it's called, for the back, and it doesn't, you can't see it, but it's there. So we're just going to cut us some strip. I have 3-inch strips going in the middle. So we're going to need, oh, I had it by the iron. So when I'm cutting a lot of strips, I just go ahead and leave my fabric folded. So I have so this will be 4 pieces that I'm cutting. So that'll give me 2, well, it's not 4 pieces, but it's 4 layers. These will be the strips that go in the center. Get our mark here. It's gonna be hard on this little board. 2, 3, we gotta go over a little. One, 2. Yeah. You always want to sharpen your blade before you start, and I did. And can you believe it's still not going to want to cut? So there's 2 strips with the fabric. Let's cut a couple more. Could always just put my ruler on this side if my fabric was turned the other way, because I'm not left-handed, and put on your 3-inch mark on your ruler and cut this way on this side. Oops. Okay. That should get us. Okay. Now we gotta lay this back out and see which way this strip's gotta go. So going that way, and that way. Yeah, we can do it like this. Okay, so now I'm going to take my strip to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew it right down this back side, just like this. Stitch it down there. And I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm about to show you this last strip that I'm going to put on and show you how I did it, in case some of you might not know. My strips, where some go this way and some go this way, just to give it a little bit of a different look. Now first of all, I'm going to go to my machine and yes, this way. I'm going to sew this strip down just like this, print to print, all the way down, probably between 1/4 and 1/2 inch seam allowance. I just want to, I'm not doing 1/4 because I want to make sure that I get all the seams caught really well. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. Okay, I sewed this strip along the back side. Now I'm going to fold it over because I want to make sure that I'm lining up my this seam with the next one so that they're not offset. Because when it's laying out, I mean, it's not really a big deal, but if you have it laying on your bed, you want your eye to follow that straight instead of being wonky. Let's make sure we're doing this right way. And we are. Okay. This is the way we want it. So we got to do this way. So when we open and see what I mean by you want your stripes, you don't want them to be like that, because that's the first thing people will notice. So you want to make sure that you get them lined up before you stitch this so they're pretty straight in line with each other. So that's why I have it turned over, so I can pin it and see the strip at the same time. And make sure. Okay. Then we're going to move it to the edge. I like to line up my ends too. I'm not sure if you can see that, if you have that in camera or not. Let's put a little pin there. Now, I don't line up my strip edges right here. I line up these because these could be a little longer, a little shorter, but I'll make sure that my squares or the edges are lined up, because that's going to just be trimmed off. All right, that looks pretty good. I mean, you just have to get it as close as you can. I mean, I don't know if there's exactly a way to make sure that it's perfect. But I think if it's as close as you can get it, it will be fine. My original cutting table is in the other room and it's preoccupied. So we're just going to make do with what we got. Oh, that hurt and bled. All right, now I'm going to go to the machine and stitch this, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. I have all the strips sewed together. Now we're going to cut some strips from this fabric to make our sashing to go on the back and finish it up. Just like that. We'll put a little strip of batting in here. And then I've cut these 5 inches. And then we just turn it in like that and make it. And that ends up, when you're folding it, it ends up being a 2.5 inch strip to go down. So I'm going to go and cut these so you don't have to watch me. That's boring. So I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I want to show you this neat little trick. A friend of mine and I went to the quilting, oh gosh, what's the name of that thing? They have it in Atlanta every year. It's like where you go take classes and they have you can go on the floor and shop. I'll think of it in a minute. You know, when you want to know something, say something, you don't, it'll leave you. Anyways, we bought this little kit because we watched this lady make these things and it was just so neat. I had to get me a set and try it. But these little things are called sashers. I hope I'm in view. Let me move down. Maybe I'm not. And they're by Designs by Pauline Rogers. That's it right there. And they come in all these different sizes. And this is, the one I'm using is the 2.5 inch because these are my 5 inch strips that I cut. So you're going to feed it through the bottom and up and then back down. Maybe. And then you take these cute little pins. Look at these little things. Can you see them? Have an angle. You just pin it right in there like that where it's pinned to your mat or whatever you're working on. So you can have a little pressure on it. See? And then you just hold these 2 ends together and run your iron down. And you get the perfect little strip of whatever size you're trying to do every time. It's just, I don't know how these people come up with things that help us in the sewing world, but I'm sure glad they do. And then you can just slide it up. And I'm slow. If I did this, a few more of these, I would get faster. She just whipped them right out. She was watching people go by and do it. Isn't that crazy? How it just makes that perfect little strip. And before you know it, you have all of your strips for a quilt ready. Ready to go. And I just kind of hold them in the neighborhood they need to be in. And voila! Another strip down. Okay, we're going to do one more. I fold it over. Basically, anywhere you fold it over, and you fold your other side to meet, it's gonna make it the size you need it. Mine's not straight. So we're gonna put this through the bottom and then down. I sure hope I'm in camera. This is a new video spot for me, so we're trial and error. Okay, we're going to pin that. We're going to hold these in the right neighborhood. That's just the stuff right there. Okay, I'm getting wadded up over here. And you can do these with just about any size strip you need. Some of the finest little pieces. There's little strip. It goes down to 1/4 inch. That's a little bitty one. So if you guys are interested in these, you go right over there to Designs by Pauline Rogers, and I will find her link and put it in the description box for you. So it will be there. She has some really neat stuff. So now we're going to go and attach these to our quilt. Okay guys, we're back at the table. I went ahead and cut a strip of 2-inch batting to go down in here. I did cut it smaller just so it wouldn't be, I mean, there's already extra bulk right here, but I did want it to kind of go under that lip right there like that. So I put that in there. And now I'm going to take our cute little strips we just made, and I'm just going to center them over that seam, and I'm going to pin them. I'm going to make sure that they're over and they're covering my stitch line from where I stitched the back. And I'm just going to start tacking them down with some pins. And then, sorry, I have a visitor up here with me. Just straight down, and it's plenty, looks like it's plenty wide enough to go over and cover my strips. Then I'll take it to my machine and do the same top stitch that I've done right here on the sashing on each row. Just go right down, and it will catch and be just like this on the back side, and it'll be together. So I'm going to go stitch that, and I'll be back. Okay guys, I forgot to show you a really important part about putting your pieces together. In Pauline's kit, she also provides this Roxanne's glue-based it. It is amazing. Let me show you. You don't have to pin it. I don't know what I was thinking about earlier when I was over there trying to pin. You start out, of course, at the top where you you just put dots, like a little dot of this glue, just down through there like that. A little bit goes a long way. Then you take your strip and you pull it back over it, and you line it up right where you want it, and you press that down, and then you put your iron on it, and the iron seals it up, dries the glue or whatever you want to call it. And now that's going to hold that in place while you take it to your machine and sew. Isn't that great? I love it. I forgot about it. Some days my mind is better than others. But you can see up here where I have, I mean, it's stuck. It's there, and it's going to hold until you get to, and when you wash your quilt, it will come out. Good morning, guys. It's Dee Dee. So, I want us to try to fix it together. So, as I was sewing my strips together, I got in such a hurry, I forgot to put, I was in such a hurry putting my strips down, I forgot to put my batting in this strip right here. So, we're going to try to figure out a way to get batting in there. So I have my strip cut, and I was thinking I have this cardboard that came out of wrapping paper. Here's, oh, you know what? That's not going to be long enough. I was going to, okay, I'm going to try to slide this cardboard piece up in there a little ways and see how that works. Guys, I don't know, but I know I can't leave that batting out. And I can't, it's not an option to take it apart because I've put decorative stitches. I put decorative stitches all the way up. There's no way. That will never come out. Okay. I'm going to wrap this batting around the end like this. I'm sorry, I wrapped it over the end. Did you see that? I just covered it like this. And then I just started rolling it. You know what? I probably should go over that. Oh, but I don't need to do that because then it'll be all twisted up in there. Let's just see what we got. Okay, I'm running it through. Can you guys see it? Oh. Look at there. Batting on the other end. Woohoo. Now, let me try to pull my stick out. And I think I'm going to pin this down here so I don't pull it out. Oh, and it's twisted all up in there. So how are we going to get that to lay flat? Inside there. I don't know, peeps. Okay, I'm going to take the cardboard out. This is kind of crazy. But we got to get our batting in there. Thinking if I had a ruler. To stick up in there. Oh yeah, this is going to be a job. So I'm going to work on this off camera, and because this is going to be boring. I have all this kind of straight. I'm going to have to. Well, we got batting in there, y'all. But it's a mess. So I'm gonna work off camera a little while and try to see if I can fix it, and I'll. Okay, guys, I did it. I got the batting up in there. I pushed it with the stick, and it went up in there, and I worked it back and forth until I got it flat. So now I am going to have to do some kind of stitching over this strip. I was going to let that be my finished product, but since I didn't have the batting in there when I stitched this, it's gonna be loose, and when you wash it and it flops around. So I'm gonna have to come up with some kind of little stitch to go over this, but I'm going to go stitch some more on this, and I'll be right back. Guys, I wanted to show you this. I'm ready to do another strip here, and when you're doing quilt as you go like this is a great way to use up your smaller batting scraps that you have. I mean, even down to the smallest piece you can put in, like I'm putting this in. I'm just lifting that seam up right there and running that. And I know you probably can't see all of this, but this is just two pieces joined right here together because they weren't quite long enough. But when I get my other strip on there and get that sewn, you will never know. Never know. That's a great way to use up those small batting strips. If you're like me, you don't never throw anything away. You got plenty. So now I'm just going to place my piece down like we've done on the others and get my glue. My iron, it's not on. I'm really excited to give this quilt. I think I told you guys this is for my foster granddaughter. She's been with us for, gosh, March was a year, so going on 2 years, but she's getting ready to go home to her family, and I'm happy for her. I'm sad for myself, but I know she's excited. So how can you not be happy for somebody that's getting to go home? For her, it's to her mama. She misses her mama. But I think they're all doing good now. Come on, iron. I need you. It's really gotten cold here overnight. The wind is blowing. I like it. Makes it really feel like wintertime. Where we live, we don't get hardly any winter, so I'm jealous of everybody that gets snow, because we sure don't. Hey, we're that little town that gets an inch and a half of snow and everything shuts down, school's out. It's crazy. But it's always been that way. I can remember not going to school because it's snowing. Okay, I'm going to finish this out, guys, and take it to the machine and do my little stitch. And I'll be back. Okay, guys. I'm finished sewing our rows together and our strips in the middle. I top stitched those down, and I did get the binding in that one. Not the binding, the batting up in that one that I skipped. I cut these 5-inch strips with the fabric. I got 5 of them. I'm just gonna put this one on the back because I don't have much of this fabric left, and I think this looks better against the front than that. So this is the back, so I'm going to put this down the strip in the back. So yeah, just trying to make it a little bit wider than it was. So I'm going to go now and start sewing these on the back so we can get some strips on the front. I'll be back. Okay, I want to show you guys what I did. I took my 2 pieces to the machine and I put this one face down this way, this one face down this way, like a little sandwich. And I stitched all the way down. Now I'm bringing it to my ironing board and I'm going to press it, all of my seams out like that. On both sides good. And then I'm going to take my batting, and I have some pieces already cut that I'm going to use and make work. These are 5-inch strips that I added around to give it a little more size on the quilt. I'm not cutting that straight, but I can square it up later. Okay. Kind of hoping this is going to work. Gosh, I don't know where the bottom of it is. Okay, so that's still going to be a little bit small for that. Unless I really shortened it. I could shorten that and fold that on over and let that be the binding. So, I don't know. I kind of liked having a good bit more width because I was going to put another stripe down the side. Just to break it up. I don't know. I'm going to have to think on that. So that's what I've got so far. Okay, guys, here's my little plan I came up with. I cut some of my scrap strips to 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to fit the smaller piece in the center up under that edge. Seemed like the other one wasn't this hard to get up under there. But we will get it. This takes a little time. Okay. Now, there's that one. Now I can take my bigger piece that I had and just put it right down like that. See, I can just scoot that up to the edge, and when I quilt this piece, like I'll have to do my sashings because it's not quilted, I'll just run that through my quilting machine and it'll catch that and be great. But I am gonna put a couple of dots of my glue based just to push this over like this and then press it And now that's another section together, so I can either tack the edge or just leave it like this till I get ready to bind it, or put another strip. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But that's that. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I wanted to show you this little, not a trick, but this is just my little fold and travel cutting mat. I just brought over to my ironing board and put underneath my quilt. Now I'm just going to put my ruler down along this edge, because I've already trimmed these up and made them pretty square. So I'm just going to trim that off right there. There's always one want to hang around. So I'll do that to all the corners, and that'll make my corners nice and straight and square. All right, let's sew another section. Okay guys, I went ahead and finished these around the sides like I was showing you earlier. I put the batting in, and then I just stitched a seam around the outside. And I've done that on all four sides. And now I'm gonna turn it around. I have it over here on my quilt machine, and now I'm gonna turn it around and start working on a little quilt design. And I'm really not sure what that's gonna be yet. I might get a stencil. I think I use these Frixion erasable pens, because they go away. When you iron it, it goes away. Okay, so I have this little pattern, and I'm just going to try to stay inside my seam as much as possible, because I will be doing my edge right there, my binding, yeah. So I got it pretty far in that side, pretty far in on this side. Well, sometimes things just don't want to work. Okay, I think we have some red action here. I love to quilt. It's relaxing when I'm not stressed, but sometimes I get stressed if I'm working on a project for somebody. This is for somebody, but I'm not really stressing about it. So I'm just going to mark all these lines. I think I've done this pattern before, and I liked it. Now I'm just doing this in the corners. Ta-da! Pull my bobbin thread out. Now, you just want to hold your hands on each side of your piece like this, like spiders. Never down, because you're weighting your quilt down. Hell, I haven't done this in a while. Okay, it's really hard to quilt when you don't have anything to hold on to. So remember that when you're quilting, always leave you about a 2-inch something out beside it so you have something to hold to. And it's done. Now, okay guys, I'm back. I wanted to tell you, I finished up my zigzags or swirly things in each one of these strips. I think the last time I was with you, I was doing the outside border. Well, then I had to go back and rip out all of that stitching right there on the one that I had to stuff the binding back up in. It was not a pretty sight. It didn't stay. It moved around, so it was all wadded up. So I just sat and watched TV last night and pulled all that stitching out and stuck my hand up under there and straightened all that out. So now I've got all my strips done, quilting, and the borders on the outside done. So now I'm going to go and cut my binding. I'm cutting my binding out of this pink polka dot, and I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips, and I'm going to cut those, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, here's my strips, and gosh, I should have showed you. Okay, I've sewn them all together, but I want to show you a little trick on how I sewed them together. This is coming from off of my machine, so here's my machine. I put this one down, pretend like this is a long strip. I put it about 1/4 of an inch from this side and that side. And then I stitch from here to here, from mountains to valleys, straight down there. Then, when you fold that up, it looks like that. And here's one. That's hot. There's one right there. And I'm about to press all these open, so when I put it around the binding, around the quilt, it will lay flat. I will fold this over like this, and I'll sew it like here is my quilt. I'll sew it to the edge of the quilt like this. Then I'll flip it over like that, and it'll be pretty on that side and pretty on this side because I'll hand stitch that. So I got all this binding ready, so I'm gonna iron it, fold it and iron it. Fold it over like this and iron it just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm not going to make you watch me do this because it's boring. So I'm going to do this step, and I'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Here's all my binding, folded in half and pressed with the iron. Now, I never start putting my binding on the corner. You always want to start like middle ways of one of your sides. And that's because where you put it together, there's going to be a little bit of bulk, and you need room to hook your pieces together, and you don't want to do that on the corner. So always do it on one of your long sides. And just clip. Now I'm going to fold this back. I'm probably going to leave about 6 inches. I'm going to fold that back because I don't want to start sewing. That's my piece that I'm going to need to put it together, so I don't want to sew that down. So I'm just going to go all the way around, clipping this. Just like this, and I'm clipping, I'm sewing it with the machine on the front of the quilt. So that means when I flip it over to stitch it on the back, my nice sewn seam will be on top. I could stitch with my machine around the whole thing, but I don't like the way the machine stitch binding looks. So I like to hand stitch it. It looks better. And I'm going to show you this little trick on how you do the corners. When you do your corners, you're going to go all the way up to the point of your corner. And I always have to hold mine. I'm going to pin it. Then you're going to let this fold up. But you've got to do it and then you're going to pull that down like that. I don't know the right words to use, but you're gonna stitch with your sewing machine right up to leaving about 1/4 inch, and then you're gonna stop. You're gonna take it out from under your machine. You're gonna fold this up. Just pull it like that. Make sure your corners are lined up, and you're gonna pull that down just like that, making sure these 2 edges are lined up, and you should be lined up straight down this way. And then you just continue on around clipping. Oh, mercy. We got a corner we didn't fix. Okay, I got a little trick to show y'all. I'm at the end. Let's see if I can make sure I get you where you can see. Okay, I'm at the end. So here's my space. You want to cross over your strips however wide this is from here to here. That's how much you want to overlap your other strip. This is 2.5, so I've overlapped it 2.5 inches, and I cut it. So now with your quilt to you, pull them off, and you're gonna take this side. Well, first of all, we've got to pull up some slack for us so we have working room. Okay, now you're going to take your strips. You're going to put this one face down, and you're going to do it like we did sewing our pieces together for this binding. You're going to let it overlap. let it hang off about 1/4 inch on that side and this side. And see there, I almost got that one up in that where we were already hooking it together. Okay, now I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm going to stitch from this corner down to here. And I'll be right back. Okay, I sewed it just like we had it pinned. Now I'm just going to trim off this extra. Remove our clips. Look at there. Perfect every time. Now I'm going to take it to the machine. I really don't like those two seams that close together, and I'm going to stitch around it and I'll be back. Okay guys, I want to show you what's going on at the machine. I'm just sewing down 1/4 inch. Actually, I think it's a little more than 1/4 inch because I want to make sure that I catch everything. But I wanted to show you something when we get down to this corner. Actually, how to do it so you're not confused. Okay, when I get to my fold, I'm going to fold it this way. And then I'm going to stitch right up to that fold, which is right there. Okay, and I backspaced a little. Now, I'm going to take it out and spin it around. Then I'm going to fold that back up this way, keeping it all still lined up on the side. You're going to put it right up under there at the same distance. And I like to back stitch and go right down just like that. I'm going to get a little ways and then I want to show you why that corner is so important. Okay. This is how you want your corner to look. You want to be able to turn it to the back side. And you want this side to lay like that. And you want this side to lay like that. See? And most of the time, it's pretty on both sides. But that's how you want it. You don't want it to be all overlapping like that. So you can just line up those points right there. And when you're stitching it by hand, just stitch it. And that baby will stay. Okay, I wonder if we need to do this side any different. Nope. It's going to be just like that. But if you're not careful, your corners will get wonky really quick like. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll be back. Good morning, guys. Today we're finishing up this quilt around the edge, the binding. So I just wanted to come on here and I hope this thing is in camera and you can see what I'm doing. Anyways, I'm starting off again with, I just got more thread and I'm trying to get that down in there. So I've tied a knot in it and I was just going to show you. I go behind my last stitch and come up through the fold and pull it all the way through where my knot goes behind it like that, and it's hidden. So I've got this folded over just to the top of that seam allowance because this seam is where it's sewn on the other side. So if we pull it up and we tack it right above that, it's going to be the same amount of binding on both sides. So I drop my needle behind right here where my thread's coming out, into the back fabric, just barely. I don't go all the way through to the back. I just pick up a little bit of the fabric and like go through it, through the middle, and without going through to the back. Does that make sense? So when I do that, I just kind of slide it under that first layer of fabric, and then I come out in your binding on the fold. See how I'm right on the fold? That way your stitches don't show. And then I hold that up, go right into the back fabric, just barely. My finger's behind it, so I know I'm not going all the way through. Just like on. And once you get used to kind of what you're doing, you can just glide right on through it. But I'm not sure what technique you guys use. I just love doing this because it makes such a great, I mean, it's just the best. I love a hand sewn binding. It's always so neat. In the front, of course, is your stitch you did on the machine, and it looks great. So we just sliding on around. I'm really excited to give her this. I think I'm going to give it to her today when she gets off the bus. She's been seeing me work on it. She's been sitting in my lap and saying, "Oh, Nina, that's pretty." And she has no clue. No clue that it's hers. She's a little blonde. So you know what they say about those little blondes. She has some blonde moments sometimes. Okay, I think you get the idea. So I'm going to finish this up. And when I get to the corner where I can show you how to do the corners, I'll be back. See you in a little bit. GoPro, stop recording. Okay, I'm back. And we're at the corner now. So when I'm stitching, I like to stitch all the way up to my edge right here. Just like that. And then I drop back down, because that's not showing, that's going to be under your seam, but I like to get back down to where I'm going to need to stitch. And then I'm folding this over at an angle. I hope you guys can see this. And then I'm going to tack it down right there. Line. Look at that hot mess. Well, that's a howdy-do.